I thought the product would be great, but it seemed very risky because like it's brand new, nobody done anything really like that. So I just thought Kickstarter was like kind of a low risk process, and yeah, like I knew it would take a lot more energy and time because I didn't have all that money up front from an investor to hire graphic designers or artists, or I spent all of my personal money into every bit of it when it came to like manufacturing, hiring you guys as a service. Like I just decided like I can afford this much, and I'll let Kickstarter kind of do the rest. Like that can be where the manufacturing cost kind of comes from, but otherwise it's kind of just been me believing in it and convincing my wife to to stick around for it.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Masters of Crowdfunding podcast. Today we have Jeremy Lightcap. He is the former Computer Graphics Generalist at Netflix and now the creator of Cat E-Corner. Your campaign just recently ended at $202,000, Jeremy, on Kickstarter. Congratulations on your launch.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for that intro there. Yeah, it's a super exciting time and quite a pivot from working at Netflix and in the animation industry, but it's been so much fun so far.
So you were just telling me right before we click record that you actually left your job pretty recently at Netflix to focus 100% on the product that you're launching. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, no, that was a hard decision because I spent really like since I was I'm 36 now, but I started learning art and design when I was like 22, and my whole life has just been focused around making art, and Netflix is an incredible company to work for, and the animation industry is so much fun, but it's kind of a gig industry, and you're always jumping from project to project, and there's never guarantee of work. And so when I made this product, the Cat E-Corner, it just seemed like an opportunity to work for myself and have a little more stability. As much as I love making art and stuff, I definitely want to keep doing that in my free time. But I'm really excited, and I'm really jazzed up and energized about making my own product and starting my own company. And so I just decided if I'm gonna do it, I got to do it completely. So I decided to leave Netflix this past month after once I saw the Kickstarter was successful, just said, okay, let's focus on this business full time, and we're going to see what happens.
Wow. So actually, we'll come back to this.
Sure.
But can you tell people what the Cat E-Corner is? I have two cats myself. I think when you and I first met, we bonded over that.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Elaborate on that and what it is and how it's differentiated from the rest of the products in the market.
Sure. Yeah. It's really tricky because it is like so much into such a simple design, but it's really like it is a side table that has the base surface of the table is just a cat scratching material that can be replaced really easily because cats are going to scratch something, and the idea behind the product was just like, well, if that's an area they're constantly scratching and attacking in everybody's homes, let's just lean into it and figure out a way to let them do that and make it as attractive as possible. And that's kind of the philosophy behind the design of the product. And it seems to really resonate with people because, we have, $200,000 worth of orders to prove that, other people are interested in it too.
Yeah. So how did you feel that first day of launch? I mean, I'm looking at the graphs now. It looks like within the first 2 days, you raised over $130,000. What did that feel like?
It's weird. I'm just gonna be totally honest with you. It's kind of bittersweet because I, through you guys, was creating a funnel system, and I was really spending heavily in advertising I'd say 3 or 4 weeks up to the Kickstarter launch. And
yep.
You guys said that that's really important, and I was getting like 50 like $1 pledges a day, people to commit to, they really want to buy it. They're going to commit $1. And when the Kickstarter launched, I had like 1,600 reservations. And I was like, oh man, I know like that would be like $500,000 or more dollars. Right. And then when I started making, when the Kickstarter launched and like, it was like 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, and it kept climbing, around like I think 3 or 4 p.m.s when it slowed down really heavily, and I was kind of sad actually the first couple of days, because I thought it was going to hit like 3 or 400,000 based on all those reservations, and not even the reservations, but the email list that I created too was like 20,000 emails. So I was kind of confused, and I was like, oh, I thought this was going to do better. But in hindsight, you guys kind of warned me. You guys said you are not going to get anywhere near the amount of pledges that your funnel is going to bring in, but that's totally normal. And yeah, and so I don't know. After the first week, I was like, you know what, this is an incredible success. I never would have done this without the guidance and the funnel system. And so yeah, I'm over the moon about it. But yeah, it was definitely the first couple of days. I kind of had my pre-sale list, and I was comparing that to the Kickstarter, and I was like, oh my God, what is happening? It was very confusing. But overall, very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, did you so we have the post-campaign analytics on LaunchKit, right? Did you upload that yet?
I don't think so. I probably should. I think I was having some problems with the LaunchKit. I was back and forth with someone on your team to get that working out. But yeah, after this call, we should for sure go in and look at that and try and upload that for people to see.
Yeah. I mean, and I think this at this point, and that's a pretty common theme as well, right? Like people expect enormous percent of those people, because they did see the price and give you their credit card information and $1.
Yeah.
In the reservation funnel, but obviously not 100% of those people turn into full paying. If they did, that'd be amazing. I wish they did.
Oh, me too. Yeah, don't we all?
Yeah, no, it's I had the same experience with my campaign launches as well, right? Yeah, for whatever reason, 2 to 3 p.m. Same thing with me. It tends to sort of flatten out, and in the middle of the campaign, it really stalls as well.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure you've seen. And it's like, what else could I be doing? What else could I be doing? But it's, that's how 95+% of how crowdfunding campaigns go, right? There's always like the edge exceptions. But yeah, I mean, overall, I would say, and I'd be really interested in looking at your post-campaign analytics to see what the conversion rate of the list and the attribution of VIPs, non-VIPs, et cetera are. But I bet it's about what we would have expected.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely love to take a look at that with you guys, and share it too, so everyone can be warned and be prepared about that realization.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you come up with the product and decide? I mean, out of all the things that you could have worked on, Jeremy, how did you decide to work on this product?
Great question. It's okay, I won't try and get like too into the weeds, but my background is in design, and I've worked on like car commercials, game commercials, like cartoons, like I've worked with architecture studios to help them come up with concepts for hotels. And so I have a lot of experience playing around and making various things look attractive, and and it's really fun. And so me and my wife bought a house, and we started renovating it, and I literally measured every inch of our first floor, and I remodeled it with her in 3D, and we like built it like a 1-to-1. The finishes, the wallpaper, the paint colors, the backsplash, everything 1-to-1. It's so much fun. And then after we were done with that, I was like, well, man, we got all these tools lying around from the renovation. We should start making some furniture. Like, let's make a record player stand, and then let's make a TV stand, and let's make a bar. And then when we adopted our cats, and I said, well, I know they're going to attack this brand new couch that we're buying. And I was just staring at it, and I was like, there's got to be a way to make that, protect it and make it look good. And so I got on my computer, and I just started designing up some things that I thought could be something I could build, something that could be kind of stable and look good. And the first version was not nearly as attractive as the one that everybody sees on Kickstarter, but it totally worked. Me and my wife made it, and the cats scratched it until it fell apart. And then, but the thing that really motivated me to actually make it as a product is I loved it. Me and my wife thought it was great, but every person who came into our home was like, where did you get that? I need to buy that. And I was like, oh, I just made it. And, so after I got that feedback a couple times, I was like, okay, I'm going to patent this. And, so I did that right away. And And I never like shared any images or anything about it online. It was just like, people kind of come through and see it. And so patented it. And then once that process got going, there was some money invested, and I just decided, all right, let's try and see what the plan, and I started looking into like e-commerce, and got recommended you guys from a friend. And the rest, I guess, is kind of history now. That was kind of the origin of all of it.
So why do you choose crowdfunding to launch the product?
I've backed some Kickstarters before, and I was pretty familiar with the system that Kickstarter is. It's just, you make a product and you build a community around it, and that kind of helps you get your start. And I really liked that because the last thing I want to do is get like a big investment company involved or get other like, I just didn't want to be held responsible and held accountable for like huge loans or credit lines or I thought the product would be great, but it seemed very risky because like it's brand new, nobody done anything really like that. So I just thought Kickstarter was like kind of a low risk process. And I knew it would take a lot more energy and time because I didn't have all that money up front from an investor to hire graphic designers or artists, or I spent all of my personal money into every bit of it when it came to like manufacturing, hiring you guys as a service. Like, I just decided like I can afford this much, and I'll let Kickstarter kind of do the rest. Like that can be where the manufacturing cost kind of comes from. But otherwise, it's kind of just been me believing in it and convincing my wife to to stick around for it.
But yeah, I mean, the alternative is to like plow the same amount or a lot more money into manufacturing, right? Making the products, and then get the inventory into the warehouse, and then cross your fingers and hope that it's going to sell, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's much better to do it the other way, which is like, okay, spend the limited budget that you have on marketing, on sourcing and manufacturing, and then get the sales up front, and then use that sales to pay for inventory. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. And the beauty about Kickstarter too is like it just shows you like the interest, right? Like it just do people really want this? And it's a way for you to like gauge that interest ahead of time instead of like gambling everything on the inventory first and then being like, why is nobody buying my product? Like it's here, but then you don't have the money to like advertise it or build up that community. So I think so far it's been a very cool way to start a company, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually crazy that 99.99% of all physical products are still launched that way. That's people go in the hole for the inventory, and then they go into the hole some more for marketing, and then hopefully the sales dig them out of the hole, which is so wild to me, actually. So wild.
Yeah, it's risky, but I mean it's one of those things where there's so much information out there, and there's so much to learn about starting a company and building a brand. And like I think I don't want to say it's luck, but it just takes so much research and confidence in the knowledge that you're able to find to commit in one direction or another. But Kickstarter definitely to me seemed like one of the least risky ways to kind of start this whole process.
Yeah, absolutely. Or Kickstarter, or just even pre-orders as a whole, right, on your own website. I feel everyone should be doing that, whether they have money or not, frankly. It's just a smarter way to get a product launched. So let's talk about sourcing manufacturing. So
yes,
you're part of the launch from sourcing program as well. You worked very closely with Joe and Keon to find your suppliers, etc. Actually don't have that much insight into your process that you followed there. So talk to me more about that and what the different milestones that you worked through with Keon and Joe and what that looked like.
Yeah, no, that's God, I love that service. Keon and Joe are great. I guess we'll do it like, let's say it's like been like a year, right? The first, I would say 6 months of having a patent and being like, all right, I got to start this company. I know I want to do it through Kickstarter. I really, 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 really wanted to manufacture this product in the United States. And so I spent months and months reaching out to people via phone, via text or email, and nobody in the United States wanted to work with someone. They wanted to just make their own product, like they were just a smaller wood shop and they were designing their own furniture, or they were a huge company and they had plenty of designs and plenty of people on staff to make furniture. And nobody wanted to just kind of outsource and build product up for somebody else. And I know nothing about manufacturing, so I was just so confused. And like, if you don't know anything about manufacturing, you only ever hear people complain about Chinese quality. It's just like a thing. Like people like are all about, it's got to be made in America. And I love that. And I tried to. But then I was like, well, maybe I have to make it in China. And so I didn't really know how to go about doing that. It seemed like it was very risky because I didn't know who to trust or how it worked or the process or to make sure that you actually get the product you wanted. And it just seemed like a lot of work. And then you guys brought up the Source Boom plan. And I thought like, I have to do this. Like it will be invaluable because I'm at a point where I don't really know how to research it by myself. There's not that much information about it, or I couldn't find it. And then, yeah, I signed up with Source Boom. I would think I was one of the earlier people to join that. And yeah, Kian is just he's been doing it for years. I think maybe 15 or 20. He's just been, yeah, maybe like 15 years he's been doing this, probably longer. But he also doesn't seem that old, so I don't want to like, I don't want him to listen to this and be like, yay. But yeah, he just had tons of insight. He had worked with Chinese manufacturers forever, and he said, they're so good at what they do. Their prices are great. And yeah, he gave me a lot of feedback and advice about how to approach a manufacturer, like what to say. He helped us all kind of craft emails that would really get their attention and, make the manufacturer treat us seriously, not like we were just trying to make a crummy one-off cheap product. Like, he showed us kind of the way to start these relationships and what to look out for, like what was a red flag. And so, yeah, with his guidance, I reached out to about probably 10 manufacturers. And one of them kind of checked off all the boxes for me. Like I had a list of things that were important to me, like sustainable sourced wood. I wanted to make sure that they had were compliant with a lot of, certifications when it came to like, just the way the products were made and the chemicals used and everything was like safe. And Kian literally, he showed me like how to go through Alibaba and like find these certificates and check all these things off, which makes your search results much smaller, but that's a good thing because now you're weeding out, the stuff you don't need or don't want. And it was a long process. It still took about 6 weeks to just find somebody, but I finally did find a manufacturer that I just totally, absolutely love. They are so respectful and professional and talented, and I don't think I would have found them without Kian's help. So I would say that Source Boom paid for itself 100%.
That's amazing. So you mentioned a couple of things like how to gain credibility, right? When you reach out to a manufacturer, because you would imagine when they're Alibaba, I mean, hundreds of people are reaching out to them on a weekly basis, right? And they just have, a entry level person filtering everything out. And what is going to get that entry level person to actually give you a good quote instead of some random quote? So what was that process like, and how did you gain that credibility?
Right. Yeah. Basically it's funny. I think, I don't know if he brought it up or somebody did, but it almost felt like being on a dating app, and you kind of got to show that you've read their profile and you align with a lot of their, what they have to offer. And so, yeah, I went through these websites and I just said like, hey, I'm this person. I'm trying to build a piece of wood furniture. I really like that you are certified in this. I like that you have this many employees because we're looking to scale and build. I like that you ship most of your product to the US because that's where we're located. And I know that we'll be able to work together efficiently because you've had experience doing that. So little things like that to show them that like you guys will be a good fit. Like just to show them that you've already vetted them, that they will be a good fit as long as they're interested. And that was, I think, something I probably wouldn't have done, because my first thought when I was manufacturing was just, I have to protect myself. I'm worried that some company's going to steal my idea. And he was like, you don't have to lead with that. Like they get that every time. And there's really no total protection out there. Like you can draft all the NDAs and in agreements you want, but at the end of the day, you should really try and find someone that you can build a relationship with and just build it on trust and kind of get to know the person that you're working with over there. And that's exactly what happened with me. Like everybody signed the papers that needed to be signed to share the idea. But as we went through the prototyping phase, I just tried to really get to know the person I was working with and their factory and everything about them. And it's to the point now where we'll occasionally just share photos of our children together and ourselves and talk about our life. And I think that that is just such a better way than having a contract and having lawyers involved, because I can just tell them, like, look, my product is live now. You might get some people that are looking to make something like this, but could you just, honor the agreement we have and, let me know if people are, asking for my product, because, in the United States, we're covered, and we're trying to make sure that people aren't, selling our product through us. And they're like totally on board with that. So yeah, it's really building up trust. It was the thing that Kian probably taught me that's most valuable at this point.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful thing too, to have that relationship built. I mean, honestly, the supplier that I worked with that I told you about, for 8 years, that built these products for me, we're still texting on WeChat, on a regular basis and checking in on their family and their health. And
that's great.
I mean, that's what life is about, right? It's not just about transactions and contracts, and I mean, still have those things in place. And Kian does a really good job guiding, like helping our clients find the balance in that. But that relationship is what will, get them to think twice when, a bigger company comes and says, hey, I'll, buy this product from you at 10 times the volume that Jeremy is ordering from you at, right? Especially when you get to $5 to $10 million in revenue, that's when people really start to copy you. But honestly, when you're under like 5 million, is it even worth their time to go out of their way to look for your suppliers and try to, copy you, etc.? Typically it's not, because all the data is so much more public on like Amazon.com. They could just do a quick filter on products that sell a certain amount that is worth their time to copy or make better. And typically they're not necessarily going on Kickstarter and seeing the vision that you see, Jeremy, for the products, right? And gotten all the feedback that you've gotten from your friends visiting and saying, hey, I'm going to copy that. So, but it will happen when you get to 5 to 10 million a year. You count on that for sure.
Yeah. Let's I mean, that seems like a good problem to have at that point when you're making $5 or $6 million.
Well, that's really, really cool, man. Thanks for sharing your experience with Kian and Launchbeam sourcing. Yeah, I mean, Kian's manufactured 2,500 different types of products, and he's been in the space since he was a kid. I mean, he has 15 years of real experience in working on it, but actually, I did a podcast recording with him as well, and he sort of talks about his childhood, stories growing up and his dad having these relationships with the factory owner, and now, he was, hanging out with the factory's owner's son, and now the factory owner's son is now running the factory, and now they're buddies, right?
That's so cool.
Yeah. And he's literally born for this, and I would argue Kian Ghazzari, you guys anyone listening to this can look him up. He's probably one of the leading experts in sourcing and manufacturing for Western companies. Incredible. Like any type of product you can think of, he can help you source and manufacture. There's just very few things that he can't do, honestly. So I'm so glad to hear that you've found your supplier and your manufacturer, because I feel like that is one of the biggest hurdles that people making a product run into. And by the way, I did the same thing, Jeremy. I went on to try to manufacture in the US, but either they were making components for medical device companies, right? I was in San Diego, so they were making components for medical device companies. They did 100 units very well, but at a very high cost. Or they did not have the capacity to do 7,000 units, which was what I was looking for to fulfill one of my crowdfunding campaigns, actually. So it forced us to go overseas. Unfortunately, I looked in Mexico, et cetera, as well, but it looked like because so much product is manufactured in China, so much experience. I mean, you walk down the streets. I don't know if you've gotten the chance to visit yet, but I would highly recommend it for you. It's just an awesome experience to experience. You can walk down the street, especially in like the manufacturing towns, and the people there, instead of, growing up working at Starbucks as their first job, they grow up working at an injection molding factory, as their first job. And now they're 25 or 30, but they have like PhDs in making injection molds, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's so much talent there that you can lean on and rely on. And that's why they make such great quality stuff for such reasonable costs. Just the talent density is crazy. It was so for someone struggling with manufacturing, what would be like your top 2 pieces of advice for them?
Oof. Yeah, that's I would say, first, Alibaba is legit. Like when I had first heard of Alibaba, I didn't know what to think of it. For me, it really just looked like Amazon, but for like knockoff stuff. And then I realized like Alibaba makes so much stuff for Amazon. Like I kind of see why I got that impression, because like I would say probably 90% of what gets into an Amazon store is from Alibaba, probably. So yeah, that was one thing that was pretty eye-opening, because that is such a huge resource, Alibaba. Like anything you can imagine, you can get it made on Alibaba. So that's one thing. And then I guess the second thing would just be to really take your time. And there's no like way to say like, oh, this is the manufacturer. But for me, like, it doesn't matter if it's Alibaba or people in the United States. I've learned that like I really get a good sense for like when a relationship is right, and you can't really tell when a relationship is right unless you talk to multiple people in an area, right? So when I was looking into shipping my product, I had a call with about 3 or 4 different shipping companies, and then one of them just stood out. I really got along with them. Their rates were pretty good. And it's just responsiveness. Like for me, like the most important thing in the world is just if someone will just respond to me and give me the information I need without me having to like beg them for the information, or they take too long, or they forget what information I want. Like all of that is red flags for me. And so when I was looking on Alibaba, I was just like basically trying to find someone who understood what I wanted and responded quickly and effectively. And I think that's more important than a price at the end of the day, because like if someone has the lowest price, but they're not responsive, or they're misunderstanding what your product is, then you're going to waste so much more time and money trying to make that product. And I was like, I don't really care what it costs, but if you are able to communicate with me really well, then we'll figure out how to make the price work. So that's my philosophy. I don't know if it's going to work yet, obviously, because I'm just now starting my company, but it seems to be a good one to live by so far.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely on the right track with that, Jeremy. I mean, as long as the price delta isn't like enormous, always go with the, person that you vibe with most. Yeah, I think that's, for life, for business, it's all the same, right? Like you go with the better people, you get along with better. So you now have a successful campaign, you have a good manufacturer. What are the next steps for you, Jeremy?
Yeah, still trying to figure those out. I'm in a little bit of a pickle, I would say. It's like a good problem to have, but basically we had about 600 people buy product. The 600 people backed the Kickstarter. So what I did is I went to my manufacturer and I just doubled that order. I just said, give me twice as much. And I'm going to take that other 600 units and I'm going to put that on my own Shopify website. But I'm kind of concerned because I'm concerned that like that product might not last the length of time it takes to get new product. Like I'm worried 600 units might sell out in a month, and then it takes me 3 months to get my product from China to the warehouses. So the thing I'm currently trying to figure out right now is like, how do I scale my business in a way that I don't ever run out of inventory? Like I'm okay with like sell, like I obviously want to sell like, 100 of these a day or whatever, but I can't do that right away. So I can't aggressively go market it. So I'm in the process of just trying to figure out a marketing and advertising strategy that'll work for the inventory I have and the rate at which like I can scale comfortably. So I'm kind of focused on that and just really building a really solid Shopify website. And yeah, other than that, but just been going back and forth with manufacturer, shipping company, pledge manager. It's a lot of work and a lot of time, but I think once all of these resources are kind of set up to go, it should be a much smoother process, like just placing orders and getting product to people. I'm so excited about that. The idea of just someone can just come across my product and buy it and have it in a week. I just can't wait to get that kind of feedback and see people sharing it and using it. And that's probably going to be the next great feeling in this journey, I'd imagine.
Yeah, no, that's right. And what actually one of my friends did, Jeremy, might be helpful for you is just, two ways. You can just offer a small discount on your site and take pre-orders once you sell out. And another one of my friends, you can look them up. It's called the Hyperspace Lighting Company. They launched their Kickstarter campaign, raised about $100,000, and then they launched on Indiegogo in demand, same product, okay, and raised I think additional $400,000 or $500,000 to generate additional pre-orders because they were out of inventory. So in the time that they were catching up on inventory, they just continued to generate pre-orders. So you learned how to do that, right? Through the launching process, how to generate dollar deposits. But instead of asking them for a dollar deposit, you just asked them for the full price pre-order. Same ads, same funnel, similar email sequences, everything. So something you can keep in your back pocket there.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about doing the pre-order thing, but I was trying to figure out where I should do it. But yeah, I've heard about Indiegogo having that system set in place, so I was leaning towards that for sure.
Yeah, cool, very cool. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit here and ask you more questions about yourself. So it's funny, you mentioned in the very, very beginning of the podcast, like, graphics and it's fun, but it's a gig economy and it's a bit risky. And I want something more stable. And that's why I started my own. People usually say the opposite, right? The job is more stable and launch the business. So like, how do you manage that thought process in your head? Or like, is there a routine or like a mental model that you follow to like manage those ups and downs?
There isn't a routine or anything, but I think what ended up happening is I had a really it was a sad early start to being an artist for me. Like I was like, I want to learn to do design and I want to be a painter. And I spent from 22 till I was about 30 making $0 as an artist. So I was kind of used to being like living like, like minimum lifestyle, like didn't have really much. All I had was just like the drive and the excitement of learning about art and design. And then I started learning 3D. And then I realized after I learned 3D, because it's one of those things where like 3D is really a massive hill to climb. It's so complicated. There's so much to learn. It's like technical and creative, but I think that's how my brain works. And once I started learning it, I realized that I just really love learning, like almost as much as I love creating. And so I started learning basically like one part. So let me break this down. In 3D, there's like, you make a model and then that model has to be textured so that it has a surface to it. Like a box could look like wood or metal or glass or whatever. But then you have to like kind of light it and then you got to stage it and keep it in a composition. And there's a lot of parts, and any animation will have like hundreds of people who will do all these little pieces at the same time to put them together to make something. But I loved the process so much that I started learning how to do everything. And that ended up really working out for me because a lot of smaller studios or smaller teams would require the work of, 5 or 6 people, but I could kind of do that by myself. So I became a very valuable person to work with. And then kind of word got out. So for me, when it came to like finding work, it isn't usually too difficult because I could kind of just reach out to the network I've built up and be like, hey, do you need any of these things right now? Because I can do them, and I can do them at like a pretty high level. But even with that experience and that ability to find work in this industry that is so competitive, I'm just kind of like, I've just been observing my own network of people who are having a hard time finding work, and they're like so incredibly talented. But I just talked to a friend of mine who has been out of work for about 8 months, and he was like worked at Disney and Sony. And I was like, what are you going to do after your unemployment runs up? And he was like, oh, I might have to just, wait some tables for a little bit. And that just like blew my mind. I was like, I don't want to get to that point. Like I've done that. Like the 10 years I was studying so hard to be an artist, like I was waiting tables and selling retail, and it's just, I don't want to go back to that. And so if that's the way this animation industry is going, where people are like, there's layoffs, there's AI art coming in, there's AI video coming in, it just seems like it's already stressful to get work without all of that junk in the way. But I just was like, you know what, if I can figure out a way to work for myself and then do art on the side, or hire my friends to help me make projects that, are just for fun, like that's kind of the motivating factor for me, is just having some freedom and the flexibility to like make art in the way that I want to. And so, yeah, a long answer to that, but that's where my head was at with this business, where like, yeah, your average person would be like, that sounds so stressful and risky. But as an artist, like your entire career is stressful and risky. So it's like, it somehow seems safer to drop all that and start a company.
Yeah. So what was that conversation with your wife like when you kept, investing money into this project?
Yeah. It's funny. So my wife is like such a creative person. She's like very artistic herself. Yeah, when we both started seeing the feedback from people, I said, like, should we try and turn this into a business? And she runs her own business. She's like the president of a company. And so she was like, I don't have the time to do this with you. Like, I love that you want to do it, and I will just be here to listen and provide you some feedback, but I can't like do this with you. And I was like, that's fine, as long as you're okay with me dropping everything and doing this. And she was. So she's been very supportive in that way. And, we're in it together financially. Like, we're both investing, an equal amount of money into it. But she believes in it, and she honestly believes in it, and so do I. So I think that support is really what I need right now to keep pushing through and to get through it all.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's incredible. Well, I think we can definitely have a part 2 here, Jeremy. I'm really enjoying this conversation so far. But I know we got to get going here pretty shortly. Are there any last pieces of advice that you would leave for the listeners out there?
Yeah, I think the thing that what I'm learning is that like, whether or not you use Launchboom or not, I think your success is dependent on how much energy and effort you put into learning how all of this works. And I think that was the great thing that really just Launchboom resonated with me, because you guys had all these video modules and you broke them all down, and they were really, really dense. And I had to watch some of them like 3 or 4 times because there's so much information. But I think the success of my Kickstarter is reflected in the energy and time I spent learning all of that information you guys shared. And I think that's just how it's going to be when you start a company. Like, just learn everything you can about your own product and your competitors, how to market, how to do social media. There's tons. There's more than like one person could ever do themselves. But as long as you're aware of each bit of the process and have a little bit of insight to it, I think once you get to the stage of scaling and growing, you'll be able to find the right people to help you make your company very successful. And I think that's probably what's going to happen with me, is eventually I would love to hire people to help me run this business. And now that I'm kind of aware of how it all works, I'll know what to look for when I'm trying to find help and to start hiring. So that's my bit of advice for everybody.
That's so good. That's so good. Yeah. Like, in order to have a successful business, especially if you're, just starting it out, you have to understand a little bit of everything. And then once you get more traction, you get more sales, you get more revenue, then you know who the right people are to put in your spots that are better than you in that particular area, or at least, can do the job as good as you in that particular area. But I see a big mistake that I see a lot of people make, my friends included, is they hire someone to do that before they even learn about it. And that's where the big losses and the big mistakes come in. So
yeah, I can see that,
Jeremy.
Thank you.
Any final asks that you have of the listeners?
No, not really. I mean, I guess if you have a cat and you want to protect your sofa, come check out Catty Corner, or Hildy and Phil, by the way, is the name of my company. For those out there, it's named after my 2 cats. So keep your eye out for it.
That's beautiful, beautiful. And I'll link it on the podcast as well. I'll link it to both your Kickstarter and whichever link you share with the audience. Check it out. Check out the Kickstarter campaign and the video. It's definitely worth a couple minutes of your time. And thank you so much for everyone for listening. And thank you so much, Jeremy, for sharing your super valuable time with us, especially since the campaign just wrapped up this week. So, and you jumped on with us immediately. So really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
A lot of people are going to benefit a lot from this. So thank you for that, Jeremy.
Yeah. No, thank you.